Your indecision undecides your life, whether you like it or not. Welcome back, and this deep dive is going to be all about the emotion of indecision. Now, indecision and procrastination, which we covered last week, procrastination, they are kind of married emotions, but yet very different. Like rugby and football, both played with a ball, but a very different shaped ball, different players, different rules, but it's still played with a ball. Indecision, very much the same with procrastination. So let's think about this. What is indecision? How does that play a cause and effect in your life? And how does it also feed into depression? Or feed into, I could say, a paralyzation of your emotional living? So firstly, let's think about this. When you think about, the feeling of indecision is effectively being completely undecided. So what it means is that each time you think about making not just a positive decision, but an alpha decision. So an alpha decision is a decision that creates movement that then gets married by procrastination, especially when you're in a depressive state. So you decide in the morning, as an example, okay, I'm going to get up and today I'm going to make this decision to change this portion of my life. I'm going to perhaps go to the gym, or I'm going to do something productive for myself, for my heart, or I'm going to say, okay, today I'm going to really be effective in my day, and the decision is to do this, and this, or just one decision. And effectively, once you've made that decision, immediately that decision then gets kind of put on pause, paralyzed, or it gets replaced by another decision. That is indecision. The indecision is effectively when you can't make a decision, but also when you're replacing one decision with another, and effectively you create no action from that decision. So where does that come from? Where does indecision come from? It comes first from the most obvious, is overwhelm. When you get overwhelmed, it means that the emotional mind of you, which is your heart and your mind, not your brain, that's a processor, your heart and your mind, becomes exhausted with the inefficiency of you creating too many decisions, or decisions that effectively have no purpose for you but for other people. So effectively you become unpurposeful in your decision making, because all your decisions are about other people, other people's prospects, other people's purpose, your decisions are based on other people's hurt, worry, how other people have a cause and effect on you. So effectively what's happened is you have diluted your decision making for yourself and increased the decision making for other people. Now let's be clear, when you are constantly making decisions for other people, you effectively have lost the strength of your own decision making for yourself. So that muscle, your decision making emotional muscle, is now becoming weaker and weaker and weaker. But your decision making muscle is, let's put it as an example, your decision making muscle for other people has become stronger and stronger and stronger, but it's doing you no good at all. A lot of business people struggle with this one. They become experts at making decisions for other people, but become poor thinkers for themselves, in the sense of their own decision making for their own purpose in their own life becomes very diluted, and their whole profile then, their whole identity becomes about the business. And in fact, a lot of those people, when they actually give up running a business, that they find that they are very much paralyzed in life emotionally because they don't know what to do with themselves. Anyway, coming back, so how does indecision, your emotion of indecision, have, or how does it feed your depressive state? Well, effectively, what it does is it prevents you from continuing to make decisions that have no prospect, purpose, or value for yourself. So effectively, I don't know if you can hear that, but the cleaners have decided to clean next door. Let me tell you what I am. I'm in a place called Creveen Lodge in Creveen Island. So I'm still on my tour, my cycle banking, cycle banking. I haven't banked anything for ages. I'm a kept man by my wife for the moment. But yeah, so I've currently cycled, I've written this down here, 456 miles or 733 kilometers in the last kind of week or 2 weeks really. And yeah, I'm still continuing that journey. This is where I'm going to be now, is I say the traveling and the deep dives, and so I'm working on all social media platforms basically to create an income from there. So it will fund this way of life for me. And my dear wife, Deb, has stamped my passport and said, go for it. Yeah, so that's where I am, and I'm in that change. So coming back, indecision. Think about the critical decision making, not the obvious. It's easy to get out of bed, or well, sometimes it's not actually, but you know, the obvious decision making is I'll make a cup of coffee, and then I'll sit down and have my coffee, and then I'll start my day. Then your indecision kicks in. Okay, so before you sat down and had your coffee, maybe you're sitting on your sofa, your couch, depending on what you call it. You sit there, and before, as you sit down, you say, right, I'll have my coffee, then I'll go and get changed, I'll get into my day clothes, and I'll start my chores, or I'll get to my computer, and I'll spark it up, and I'll start looking at my emails, and then I'm going to work on or go into the chores that I avoided yesterday. I'm going to do those today, or I'm going to make myself a promise. I'm going to get out, I'm going to get a walk in, I'm going to get some fresh air in. That's all before you've sat down with your coffee. And those are things that you've decided. Then you have your coffee, and you're sitting on the couch, and you're finding out that your indecision and your procrastination that we spoke about in last week's video are starting to kick in. And you're finding that your time sitting on the couch, on the sofa with your coffee, is starting to extend and extend and extend and extend. And you're finding that the decisions you made are now becoming diluted, and they are slowly just disappearing in your mind, or they're being pushed back, pushed back, pushed back. And that's what happens, is that your indecision emotion is now becoming the ruler, the running of your day. And effectively, again, as with procrastination, guilt starts to now come in. You find that your indecision emotion also starts to power up your guilty feel of, I need to get up, I need to move, but I can't make this decision. And sometimes your indecision works at such a fast pace that each time you make a decision to say, right, I'm getting up, I'm going to do this, you find that it changes your mind. It changes your mind. So let's go back to, if we can, what effectively starts indecision. Now, I mentioned there, it's an overload, an overdose of thinking for other people in your life. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, people say you should be kind. That's different. People say you should be considerate for other people. That's a different emotion. When you're given the power of your own think for you to think for others, then effectively you've lost your own decision making. Is it because then, you know, the wrong people are around you? The people around you are effectively draining your energy, taking all your own purposeful decision making for you in your life. And they are effectively drawing the breath out of your thinking. Could it be that? Yes, it could be. There are multiple events, reasons, opportunities for the emotion of indecision to embed into your heart thinking. And let's remember I said that, heart thinking. When you heart think, it means that you are thinking for you. Thinking for you is the most important thought currency that you can practice in your life. If you are not given a percentage, and let's create a math percentage here, at least 60% of your day should be thinking of your purpose. And then the other 40, and this is quite high, I would be more of 80% thinking of my purpose and 20% for other people. That doesn't mean my 80% doesn't consider other people, but I don't put the strength of my decision making to making those individuals in my 80% stronger in their own decision making. I did that for many, many years, and that process of thinking is what took me into a deep dive depression last year. So when you think about your day, and when you're a parent, this can be a percentage that you really have to have discipline with, because we always overparent. We always feel that we have to think for our children when effectively they are better thinkers than us, because they're not diluted in the power of their thought by the disappointment of their past as of yet, until as parents we actually put that on them. When we dilute the strength of their thinking by our correctiveness of what we feel they should think or what they should be thinking about, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be influencing how our children think, but we don't control how they think. You see, a child responds to the environment that we don't hear but they feel. And that's exactly what happens as an adult still in life. We're just children in adult bodies. So the reason why a depressive state comes in, that's been helped by the emotion of indecision, is because we are still playing out the need to think for other people as we had to think for our parents. Where I best do it this, as an example, as a child, I best do it this way so mom will love me. If I do this, my mom and dad will love me. If I do it this way, if I respond this way, I will be loved by my mom, I'll be loved by my dad. If I respond or I become effective and successful in this event as a child, my mother and father will be proud of me. That effectively immediately creates what is an indecision emotion that's now starting to bed into the child, which as an adult we then keep replaying. So when I suffered with the depression last year, what I realized was that the last 20 years of my business was all about making decisions for other people and not really anything for myself. Actually very little for myself. So start your day. What I did was, I started my day by, first of all, analyzing my indecision, as I did my procrastination, as I did the whole umbrella of depression. So when I looked at the indecision making that I was suffering with, I first of all, I was in current time thinking, okay, why am I thinking this now? And I realized that I couldn't get a thought for why I was getting the emotion of indecision. And then, of course, I look back. And when I look back, the realization was that, in my childhood, there was a lot of, I was a show-off. I'm not sure if that kind of phrase falls everywhere in the world, but I was a show off as a child. So it meant I was always seeking attention. I was always seeking something to be noticed. And that effectively meant that my actions were for other people to see me. And that played out a lot in my business. You know, I was the one on stage. I was the one that was opening events. I was the the coach, the teacher, the one that had to be noticed. So effectively, even though you could say I'm influencing, I wasn't influencing from a place of authenticity. I was influencing from a place of desperation. Please see me. Please see who I am. Please notice me. So effectively, it wasn't really that authentic. Now, that's not saying it wasn't helpful, and that's me kind of defending my actions from back then. I'm sure there were portions that were. So when you think about your indecision, you think, okay, well, you know, you may say, Paul, I'm making decisions to help other people. But how is that helping you? Is it giving you a feel-good factor? Then basically, you know, you're back to the little boy, the little girl, or the little girl that needed to be noticed in order to feel good. Helping people is a good thing, but if you're helping a person to take away that takes away their opportunity to grow their own mind, then effectively you're not helping at all. We should never be doing for people. We should be influencing the opportunity for them to do in a good way, but not for us to do for them. That doesn't mean we don't do for people either. Understand, this may sound like a contradiction, but it's so important to understand that balance. So when we come back again, indecision. So when you get up in the morning, start your day by thinking, okay, so first of all, your own decision making. Make sure again that the first chunk of your day is all about decisions that are meaningful and purposeful for you. You have to refill. You have to be sure that you are full emotionally in yourself, purposefully full emotionally in yourself, before you start giving away what are chunks of your emotional value to other people to help with their decision making. Now remember, I said help with their decision making, not make their decision making. The moment we are making a decision for another person, we are then influencing a change in how they think, which effectively, if they're not ready for the decision making that you are offering them, it means that they are going to lose a chunk of opportunity to grow, which means you get karma for that. That's what happened to me. Making decisions for other people when effectively they should be making them for themselves, which of course then the result of that is you become an indecision making person for yourself. It's pretty deep, I know, and it's quite technical, but indecision and procrastination, those two emotions are technical, but if you understand them and really give it thought, not just a think, give it thought, heart thought, you'll start to see and recognize the balance of decision making, influencing purposeful decision making that you're making in your life that effectively can either import the paralyzation of your decision-making process, or if it's measured correctly, you will actually increase the quality of decision-making in your life. And then the practice of indecision will become almost non-existent. Yeah, it's a life rewarding thought currency, if you understand. So let's finish this off and say that on average, as a rule of thumb, 70% of your thoughts should be purposeful to yourself first. And when I say your thoughts, your decision making thoughts, 70%, and then the other 30%, if you are then creating decisions for other people, especially as a parent, You need to really understand and be mindful of the quality of decision making that you are offering to that person, child's life, in the sense of what are they getting from that decision in their own growth. If it's control from yourself, then there's no quality in that, because the decision from yourself to that person would have been a stop opportunity, not a growth opportunity. Remember, correction. If you're correcting, that's different to a decision making. Let's not put these together. Offering correction, offering influence, these are different emotions to decision making. You need to really understand what a decision making emotion feels like. Really analyze it. Yeah, so indecision. Hope that's helped. So if you like these videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If not, I get it. It's no worries. There'll be lots more of these. Each week I'll be dropping one in as I travel. I may have to do one from my tent or from a nice little camp kitchen like this. It's all good. Enjoy it. Enjoy your decision making. See you next week.